I wonder what's taking them so long, all of this waiting.
Oh, you're really anxious to be going, aren't you, Todd?
When I think of what's happening this very minute, my mother having her very first baby, me.
Oh, of course I can't blame you for being excited. All the new experiences a physical body will bring, new friends and...
Hey, somebody!
Girls.
What's holding up the show?
Oh, you'll probably be extremely good looking, and they'll flock around you by the dozens.
Oh, Julie, I can hardly wait.
Oh, on the other hand, I'll probably be very plain.
It's enough to make you want to cry and sing and shout all at once. Hey, somebody out there! I'm coming!
Oh.
Hey, what's the matter?
All you can think about is getting down to those physical bodies.
Huh?
Oh, girls, and don't try to hide it, Todd. You can hardly wait.
I can?
Oh, so you admit it! Well, go on, then. Have your wild fling on Earth. Just as long as you're happy.
Julie, how can you say such things after all we've promised?
What good are promises in a world where everything will be forgotten? Even if by some miracle we do meet, what chance is there that you could possibly ever recognize me?
Hey, how long have we known each other?
Forever.
And loved each other?
Forever.
You think that we're just going to forget all of that?
Yes. I mean, no! I mean, I don't know what
Julie,
I mean.
I love you. And if I have to search the whole world over, I'll find you. And as for not recognizing each other, why, that's like saying that the sun and the moon and the stars will never recognize their glory, that truth and beauty and virtue will never recognize their own.
But what if I'm ugly?
Ugly?
I knew it!
I'm just kidding, Julie. If you're the strangest looking girl on earth, I'd still love you.
Oh, Todd.
And one day we'll stand across from each other, just like we are now, and I'll say, don't I recognize you from somewhere? And you'll say,
Well, you do look familiar.
and then I'll say,
that usually leads to she doesn't understand me. And that usually leads to not like the women at the office understand me. And pretty soon the women at the office start looking better and better, and your family looks worse and worse, and before you know it, boom, you've lost everything.
I really love him, Bishop. I've never felt this way about anyone before. I can't have a temple recommend.
I see her.
Mahana, you ugly. What are you hiding up there for? Today is a day of bargaining. Come down and be ready to greet your husband-to-be.
You have been born at this time for a sacred and glorious purpose. It is not by chance that you have been reserved to come to earth in this last dispensation of the fullness of times. Your birth at this particular time has been foreordained in the eternities. You are to be the royal army of the Lord in the last days. You are youth of a noble birthright.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. Came back from getting water after posting the video this morning and saw that we had a power outage for 5 minutes. And then I checked Rocky Mountain Power, and sure enough, many people in the valley here in Salt Lake. There was over 700 when I checked, and so most likely more when it hit, whenever it hit. So we're back doing videos again. Because last night, which I did the video on this morning, is that Nelson failed. He's the cause of why we're into overtime. All of this was supposed to be finished. I was supposed to be in Zion in 2021, if not before 2024. So I was right. Nelson failed. See, my associative memory, I knew of the meeting that they held in 2018, in which Nelson announced and had a big press conference, went over the plans and all that to remodel the Salt Lake Temple. And they specifically said, we're planning on having it finished for 2024. And now it's an additional 2 years, because when the enemy lays a trap, the law of Purim states that that trap is what the enemy falls into themselves. So, that's not the video we're doing this time. It really is sad. It's disheartening to be born and raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, to be told that I am foreordained to come down to earth at this time, billions of years later, being held in reserve in the premortal council of heaven, to be the royal army of God, the youth of the noble birthright, to usher in Jesus and his mass murder and coup of governance. They, of course, don't word it that way, do they? Yeah, the second coming of Jesus, where the wicked will be burned and the governments will be controlled by Jesus. Same meaning. And so I've had an opportunity to be in this church my whole life. I've come to know many stuff and seen the changes take place in this church. So when I did my videos, when Nelson took over, about the changes he was making, yeah, my experience and knowledge with associative memory, I'm able to, expose what they're doing. You got Oaks coming out and saying, oh, it's all scriptural, trust us. It's not. Have you never read them? Right here. Now, do those videos. They are incapable of beating me in a debate. Everything they talk about, I'm able to go right to the scriptures, and if it's from the Book of Mormon, from there. If it's from the Doctrine and Covenants, from there. If it's in the Bible, from there. If it's from history, from there. And this is because I don't get fooled by people who lie to me. I grew up in Southern California among white supremacist Christian nationalists. They were being told all about the inverted pentagrams on the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple. I just dismissed them as lying, because that's what all my childhood peers did. They thought it was funny to lie to people and get people to believe their lies and go around and spread those lies. And so I guess that's why I don't get fooled by this church when they lie to us, is because I have had to learn what the truth is for myself so that I wouldn't be lied to, so I don't make the mistake of lying to others. Now, yes, I make typing errors like the one in the picture I did this morning. Heading instead of heating. Oh my God. I just saw that on the screen. I went, oh. And so, for me, studying about the church, it was very clear. Translation was the quickest, easiest answer for me to find out if Joseph Smith is true or false. We don't have the plates, so we can't check to confirm if the Book of Mormon is translated correctly. So I've got to find something else to work on. Hebrew and Egyptian. But I had to wait until I was up in the University of Lethbridge up there in Canada, and was even at the library in Lethbridge. Found a interlinear biblical Hebrew English text and tried to see if I could figure out how to translate. Can't. It's not like our alphabetical language. It is a completely different language. And then when I was at the University of Lethbridge, course curriculum became available for biblical Hebrew and Greek and a little bit of Latin. And so, again, awesome. Finally being given the opportunity to learn whether Joseph Smith is true or false from the King Follett sermon, where he says the biblical Hebrew text is translated incorrectly. And so it took 6 months after graduating until I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew in February 1997, which combined time spent on it was probably just a few days. That's how quick and easy it is for me to decipher ancient languages. If I have all of the tools, all of the documents, everything out in front of me, yeah, real easy to run the theory test and figure it out. It took longer to run the vocabulary test because I had to devowel the Paleo-Hebrew, or the Brown Driver Briggs's Hebrew-English lexicon, put it in alphabetical order, and then run the theory tests for the three-letter word combinations. So, do you care about? It was lots of pages that I had to type with the font that I had to buy. Yeah, lots of work on that. That was manual labor stuff. That wasn't actually working on the decipherment. That was setting things up so that I could run the test. And so now, actually I was back on my mission. I was able to listen to other Mormons make claims about the church and go, no, it's this scripture. And so, yeah, I was very good at Mormonism regarding scripture stuff, because I was among the first batch to be taught the scriptures with the new quad of footnotes, Bible dictionary, topical guide, and being told to study our scriptures using the footnotes, using the Bible dictionary, using the topical guide. And so, yeah, it didn't take me long to figure out, wow, this sucks. Who did this? There's so many errors in here. And so, yeah, I had been working on my studying of the scriptures by correcting the footnotes with my annotation. And so when I was then asked if I would do the revision of the footnotes, yeah, they had no clue how prepared I was for that assignment, and they soon found out. And so Mormons are incapable of defending Mormonism when I now know the whole story, the rest of the story. And yet Mormon after Mormon still thinks that they're going to lie to me and deny the truth about the church. I found out Joseph Smith is a translator. And so when I go into church history, I then am able to see the errors that people are talking about when they're talking about Joseph. People are lying about Joseph, and for some reason Mormons are believing those lies from 200 years ago. Nobody is able to linguistically analyze a forged document. And so I was up in Canada when Mark Hoffman was being published about all of his stuff, being in Southern California when he was doing his stuff. I didn't hear about it in Southern California. That was just a Utah thing that the church tried to keep quiet. But when I was up in the University of Lethbridge library, I found a book talking about a salamander letter, and I'm going, what the hell is this? And I would read over it, and Joseph Smith III is supposed to succeed in a talking salamander at the hearth, and I'm going, no, there's errors here. This is not syncing right. And sure enough, it was a forged document. And so yes, there are others who have identified problems and contradictions in our scriptures. Section 119 is probably the most infamous, in which it goes contrary to the Book of Mormon. Section 132 also is an infamous, popular one. Did Joseph Smith flip a switch and all of a sudden decide to commit polygamy and adultery and rape of children? What the hell's going on? And for the most part, everybody believes that, yeah, Joseph Smith's changed. 1838, he made the change, and there's a whole long list, and it's in that book with a note thing that I was using for YouTube videos. I wanted to quit. I give up. The enemy sucks. They can't do anything right. So I'll just wait until they finally do it. And so, yeah, it's nobody understands that, okay, you've learned what's wrong, but nobody tries to figure out what happened, what's going on. Mormons just say, oh, yeah, well, Joseph Smith changed, he can do that, he's the president of the church. If Nelson wants to take my wife, I will give him my wife. See ya, honey. Trust in the Lord. But to be attacked by Mormons when I tell them Joseph Smith is true. And they say, no, you're not allowed to translate. What do you mean I'm not allowed? I did it. I use science. Joseph is true. No, no, you can't do that. Only the president of the church can translate. Well, he's not. I did it. And so, yes, it's been a struggle to get through to Mormons who are so indoctrinated, and even those who leave the church likewise are still indoctrinated, but for doubt promotion rather than faith promotion. Both of you need to stop it. Obviously, I'm not expecting you to make up and orgy sex to get back into favor with each other, but dear God, you guys are just battling back and forth on irrelevant things when all you need to do is go straight to the Book of Mormon itself. That is our keystone, isn't it? So why are you going after all these journal entries of Joseph said this, Joseph did that? Book of Mormon, stick to it. If something else contradicts it, you got to question it and go, wait a minute. This is saying that Joseph Smith isn't following the Book of Mormon. Nobody thinks to do the check. It's a simple, basic thing to do. You know, lots of stuff growing up, the contradictions that I'm finding, I write them down on the sacrament flyer and would get to them later because there was no way for me to know one way or another what's right and what's wrong. So I just wrote it down, set it aside. We'll eventually find out as I gain more knowledge, more intelligence, line upon line, precept upon precept. I trusted that that would be the process and that I would eventually get the answers, and I did. I know everything now. It's true. Moroni is true. It's not about a spiritual witness feeling. And so I am kind of surprised about John, because the manner in which he worded his question showed that he had a good deal of intelligence about Mormonism, but I didn't know him or anything about him, but by the manner in which he asked his questions, coming to my one and only one video. And so, in my brand new Mormon apostate asks about origins of New Jerusalem, he responded. And so he got to tell me a little bit about himself. And this is what many ex-foes do once they leave the church, is they do a YouTube video about why they left the church. I've done several of those. Nobody cared. And so I'll just go over his comment. I hold all comments for review, and so the one comment he made a typing error, and then because he didn't see his comment, he typed in another comment to correct it. But yeah, I didn't, because he was talking about his personal self, so I didn't want to let it out there in case there was something that might compromise him. SEAL Team 6, they're coming. You're early, guys. 4 more days. 4. Why are you so early? Oh, you can't wait? You're already years behind your failure? Dear God. The things I went through because Nelson failed. Oh my hell. He owes me. And he can never repay the damage he caused, not just in preparation for his failure, but after his failure. He can never repay the damage he did to me. God. But, I mean, seriously. To fail? 200 years of preparation, planning, setting everything up, getting everything organized, having your people in every single position possible, and you fail? This was supposed to be a tragedy, not a comedy. What a humiliation. And so now they're in their meeting for an hour now, as the power went out on them, I guess. For 5 minutes, unless more, because there's still some people without power. Discussing my video, and that's probably what tanked the electric grid. All of the 70 were in a combined meeting with the corporate board, going over my hour-and-a-half video this morning. Man. Anyway. So, John loves the title of the video. Yep, being an apostate is a badge of honor. Because we know we're not really apostates, we knew the church was fraudulent, false, lying to us, deceiving us, whichever reason we left for. And, yeah, great, call me an apostate. Because it's a beam and mote that Mormons play on people to keep them threatened to stay Mormon, is name calling. And it just exposes Mormons of being the apostates themselves. Beam and mote. And so John gets it. So he will tell me a little bit about his history. He says, I never thought about religion growing up. So at the age of 40, 2 years, and you demonstrate that much knowledge of Mormonism, having never really been taught about religion growing up, and then at the age of 40, and then you couldn't last beyond 2 years. Wow. But that's a big thing that Mormon missionaries and Mormons need to understand, is that as little kids, this is why the church sends out little kids, to trick people to join the church. These little kids don't have line upon line, precept upon precept experience enough to know the church is true or false. They don't run the test. We are not taught to run the test. And so John, being a worldly person, heathen, godless, is learning how to learn in his life, and he's got 40 years of experience at the time the missionaries show up. And so he gives it a try, because they don't really explain enough about the religion, and I'm willing to bet he's going to reveal what it is that he began to learn after being tricked into being baptized, and then could only last 2 years. Let's find out. And so it was May 2022, which the comment previous was October 2024 you left, or November, something like that. And so he was curious about the religion, so he joined up. His baptism felt right. Did you catch that, Mormons? That's the trap of sending out little kids and lying to them about how to recruit. Moroni, remember I brought that up earlier in the video, kids? You don't watch because you've been indoctrinated and you've been bullying me, calling me an apostate. And so you stay away because I'm of the devil, and you have no clue that the baby name meaning of Russell Marion leads to Lucifer. Mars, the husband of Venus, the symbol of the inverted pentagram of Lucifer. So if the bride of Jesus, the Christ, is the church, so Lucifer likewise has a church, and it's the church of the devil, and Venus is the church, and therefore the symbol is the inverted pentagram of Lucifer, and therefore Mars is Lucifer. Yeah, Lucifer is the head of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've been telling you this in videos all these years. And you run away and hide. It's not true! Jesus! My faith bubble's been burst. But yeah, this is what Mormons do. They trick people. They don't want you to study the church. They don't want you to study the Book of Mormon. They don't want you to read 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 2 that says Jewish. They take you straight to 3 Nephi 11 and say, Jesus, see? It's in the center of our name. And they think they're so clever. And they just reveal how stupid they are. And then they get mad at you and they just say, well, you're an apostate. That's why. You know, it's obvious. It's in the center of the name. It's not about feeling right. And so, yes, John got caught up. It wasn't two sister missionaries, was it? Were you a heretic? Paying attention. If it's going out once today, it could go out again. That would ruin this video. Let's see. So he's curious. It was July 9th, 2022, 4 months after his 40th birthday. The guy he picked to baptize him was the branch president. You're not even in Utah. No wonder. Yeah. You're in a place where there really aren't enough Mormons around if you had the branch president baptize you. Because I'm sure you probably know now, the typical ward has bishops. And so if they're a growing, developing location, they'll have a branch president. And in some places where the church missionaries are first there, the missionaries usually hold the meetings themselves until they can get enough members baptized and get them tricked into the temple endowment and thus give them priesthood so that they can run a branch and then grow it into a ward and then multiple wards and then a stake. That is the main thing. And then you have 70s who are over, they used to have regions and then areas. I think they've done away with regions now. And so now it's just the area 70s that are over the different places. I can't remember how long ago it was when regions got done away with. But yeah, we used to have a first and a second quorum of 70, and then Monson just, or was it Gordon B. Hinckley? One of them, just one priesthood meeting announcing the retirees and the new people coming in. I called them General 70. Didn't bother to tell anybody he made the change other than to say General 70. And so that became the big news story after that conference. so there's a numbers game with birthdays that John is talking about. The lady that was talking about the Holy Ghost at his baptism, turns out that her birthday you thought this was Catholic, didn't you? And so more numbers game with birthdays. And oh, no. 45, huh? I can do the numbers game with my mom's death. 12, 21, 21. My first temple trip, August 20th, 2022. Yeah, interesting. Yes, apparently you're not married. You don't have somebody with you. It was a little strange, proxy baptizing his father, who had passed away the year after his mother passed away. And proxy baptism for his grandfather also. Wow, that's unusual, because the church goes around the world and steals names and has them sent out to the various temples that are like, didn't Nelson just do number 200 in Twila? So that everybody who does an endowment has names to do, or some of the other stuff. But if it's out of Utah, you have to call and say we have family names to do. And so that's why you were doing family names for the proxy baptisms. And so there have been many complaints by new converts who want to do their family with the genealogy temple work and find out that the work has already been done. Belize? How did somebody know about my ancestor in Belize? So yeah, you're lucky to be able to do your dad and your grandfather, even though they are probably within 100 years, which is why, because the church had to readjust their temple ready program, and it's now called Family Search, something like that. So that you have to establish a direct relation and have to send in a submission that you are the direct line to do this work, and that nobody else is allowed to touch them until after 110 years. And then they have to likewise be related. But the temple indexing, gathering of names, and sending them out to temples, no, they don't follow those rules. Not at all. Let's see. He goes into the confirmation room at least 3 times because they couldn't find cards for some reason. Yeah, well, it happens. The disconnect between the baptismal font, if they've got other people there also, and because you're in a branch presidency, in a branch, to go to the temple, you'd have to likewise go with a group to be able to access the temple all together at once. And so all of those other cards were also there, and they were most likely waiting for other baptisms to finish, and you were probably among the first to do them, which is strange, because usually if there's kids involved, they want to get them first, and if there's women, they usually have them go first. I'm not sure of your situation, but that's why there was the conflict of not being able to find them, because they still had them at the baptismal font waiting for the other batches to finish, and you're supposed to wait. There was my baptism when I was 8 years old in one day. it was in Southern California, and so missionaries had gotten people, a family, to be baptized, and so I had my baptism shared with the whole family, and their baptisms were done first, and then I had to do my baptism. And so I still remember being impatient, sitting there waiting and it not happening, and everybody's taking their time, and so yeah, but that would have been why, is that other people were there and they're waiting for things to get done to pass them on to the confirmation area. Let's see. After we leave the temple, he sees a beautiful white and green truck with a ship on it. Mayflower ship or truck. Yeah, Mayflower moving truck, isn't it? Turning on Columbus Drive. Manhattan Temple is on Columbus Drive, Manhattan. Wow. It's not the Bronx branch, is it? And your proper response is, which Bronx branch? Good for you. That was a test. I was there when it was one branch. And the branch president in that Bronx branch, as a missionary, helping him as a counselor and a clerk and a financial clerk and a membership clerk and a whole bunch of other stuff, because we just didn't have the men. We were sent there to establish a membership directory for the branch so that we can find out if it can be turned into a ward or not. We found out, nope, too many women, not enough men, and so they split it into two after I had left, and then they split the mission, New York mission, into two after that. And so, I mean, that doesn't mean that you're in New York, but I don't know how many other temples are around. I think there's one in Poughkeepsie now. Didn't they announce a Poughkeepsie temple not too long ago? That's where the ring cones were. And Morgan Egg, that's the name. I had known the oldest daughter from Rick's college before I went out on my mission, and so when I was transferred to Poughkeepsie and the Morgan Eggs invited us over for dinner, that's when I found out that that's her family. And then the other sister, who was 16 at the time, had a crush on me, and that was nice but scary at the same time. Poughkeepsie Temple. Yep, sure enough. No, I don't want you to know where I am. Wait a minute. No, I'm just seeing churches. Okay, no Poughkeepsie on the temple list site. Huh. Alright. Whatever. Memories on the corner of my mind. And so, yeah, again, with the numbers game and symbolism and signs. Puritans. They were not so pure. They were kind of mean. But yeah, I have ancestors from the Mayflower also that my parents did the research for. He thought it was interesting. When he got home from the temple trip, his niece got a new toy that day, a laughing witch. Not a laughing Elmo. Everybody went to their room. You were on the couch. The witch was on the couch. Chucky. All of a sudden, he started laughing, and nothing activated it to laugh. I'm gonna curse you. Went to their room. Everybody went to their room. It was on the, creepy. Laughed on the same day. Temple trip. Yep, it's a sign from God. He's smiting you down. And so, why did I leave the church? Variety of reasons. Self-reasons. He says he doesn't believe in Joseph Smith's visions of various heavenly figures. Well, that makes him a witch. A cult. He's talking to the dead, looking at a rock and a hat like a crystal ball. This is what the Brigham Young did by turning everything literal history. They turned him into a witch, just like the Christians did to the Jews. Called them witches. And so when the Black Plague of Europe occurred, Christians suffering and dying from the Black Plague, but those Jews who bathed and cleaned, witchcraft. And so they hunted them down. God. And so John the Baptist, Peter, James, and John, God the Father, really. And so didn't lie. And so yeah, they lied to you. Those are visions. They're not manifestations. Joseph makes it very clear. Visions. Like at the beginning of the Book of Mormon, Lehi has visions. He doesn't see it. It's a vision in his brain. That's what Joseph was talking about. And this church demands you accept that it was a literal manifestation of the physical reality of Jesus appearing to Joseph Smith. And nowhere will you see Jesus. It's always described as a personage. That's how they lie to you. They keep you from looking at the text yourself. You just sit in class and you hear them say Jesus appeared to Joseph Smith in the grove. You go, okay. That's the majority of Mormons. They will not study their scriptures. They will not go, wait a minute, I don't see Jesus here. I mean, yeah, sure, there's some plagiarism from the New Testament. Behold my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Travis is saying some weird stuff about that being Egyptian. But he's a Korah whore, so we won't listen to him. That he and his brother scammed people with treasure digging and visions. Yeah, they were so filthy rich from doing that. Wow. Yeah, that confounds me. I'm wrong. Nobody thinks about this. Again, people were reporting that they were doing this. But there's a history behind it, like the video I did this morning. Not a single Mormon or exfo or a Nevermo knows that information which I gave in that video this morning. And I've been giving it for years since I began working on the research for it. I used to do videos after every stage of my research that I was doing. And so occasionally I'll do videos about an individual from church history, and I'll go over him and I'll show how to do the research on him to find out if he was a true Joseph follower, or if he got conned into the Brigham Young, or if he was one of the conners himself, tricking people to come into the wrong religion. Because it's easy to do. The name of the church is the Dead Giveaway. Joseph did not name it the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That was never his church name. And so he says he doesn't like that they were Freemasons. That's only because of the video this morning. I hope you have a different view on that. He saved America by saving the life of William Morgan as the Master Mason. And thus we have the Book of Mormon. Because there's a difference between Scottish rites and York rites prior to 9/11/1826. And so everybody today lumps them all together as one and thus evil, like Christians to the Jews. And so nobody knew the differences, nobody knew what they were about, nobody understood that it was the Illuminati who infiltrated the Scottish rites and didn't get into the York rites. And so William Morgan had found out this secret plot by attending a Scottish rites meeting, or somehow, we don't really know how he had found out about it. But the Book of Mormon that I went over with you this morning, they were exceedingly accurate with what happened. And so he had extensive, detailed knowledge of their plot and what they were going to do to us in these latter days. And that's just what's astounding to me. And for Nelson still to fail. And fail again, and fail again. And then he fell on 9/11. Oh my God. They really want me dead. And so, yeah, I've had to correct a number of people who make the assumption that today's Freemasonry is the same prior to 9/11/1826. No. It's the same thing that Mormons pull on Joseph Smith. The same church, the same exact that Joseph Smith had it set up as, you know, and no, it was a completely different religion, completely different administration and structure and all that. And Mormons just don't bother to study. They heard it from their teacher who said that, and then they go in and repeat it to other people. Just my white supremacist Christian nationalist peers when I was a kid. And here I am seeing Mormons do it. It's just disgusting. He doesn't like what they did to Hitler, baptizing. Yeah, I'm sure he's been baptized dozens of times. Mickey Mouse, Michael Jackson, Holocaust victims. There was an elderly man who found the names of Holocaust victims and would submit them, and that's why the church had to change the Temple Ready program into the Family Search program to try to prevent this from being done, because the Jews found out about this, and so now there's an assigned Jew to make sure that no Holocaust victim is ever baptized in this church, despite having to tell that old man over and over again, no, you can't do this. Stop it. Don't do it. And he keeps doing it. When I was at the Jordan River Temple, I don't know if this was the guy or if it was another guy, all he would do was baptisms for the dead. He would have a pile of 20 names to do baptisms for the dead, and he was faithful. I was seeing him on a regular basis because I was there on a regular basis, And one day, one of the temple workers told me that, oh yeah, he just redoes the same names over and over again. Oh my God. Because the church really doesn't like adults to come to the baptistry and do temple names. They want to leave those for the kids to do. And so the high school kids would come to the Jordan River Temple, and they would have temple names from the world and have that for them to do. And so if you did have family names, you got priority, but still, the things that goes on in this church, just, oh my hell. And so, yeah, endowed, sealed to parents, Adolf Hitler of all people. Yeah, he's only going to the terrestrial kingdom, or telestial kingdom, because he was never a faithful Mormon to deny Jesus to his face and deny the Holy Ghost to be an outer darkness, son of perdition. Did the missionaries tell you about that, or do they not tell about the plan of salvation anymore? But yes, this is how the church gets exposed with their theology that you're talking about, is that there are things that don't click. And I was catching on to that as well, is that, that we go to get our temple endowments, and we are told that we are giving the secret handshakes and the secret signs and tokens of the Holy Melchizedek priesthood, so that we can pass by the angels who stand as sentinels, being able to give them the key words, signs, and tokens of the holy priesthood, and gain our eternal exaltation in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom with our multiple wives, which the church is dropping, even though Nelson brought it up. And you're supposed to obey when you're supposed to find yourself multiple wives and get married to them, and you didn't. You left after 2 years. Shame on you. And so I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's all of these apostates who are sneaking in, or apostates who leave and still remember. When they die, they're going to be able to sneak into the celestial kingdom because they know the name, signs, and tokens to gain their eternal exaltation. My new name is still Nephi and will always be Nephi. Mormons don't think about it. And so, even though that's an after-death thing that nobody should be thinking about anyway, Mormons don't realize that the theology exposes turning Joseph Smith into literal history. You can't do that. And so, likewise, there's the infamous BYU musical, Saturday's Warrior, or Warriors, in which it starts off in the premortal council of heaven. And you have this couple who are so excited to go get a body down on earth, and they're hoping that they will go down together at the same time, and they'll meet each other, and they'll get married and go to the celestial kingdom, and it'll be a perfect, and then nothing happens the way they want it to. And then it became so ingrained into Mormon mythology, theology, that Mormons were preaching it, and then the first presidency had to come out and say, no, we do not approve this as doctrine for our church. I should probably use a clip in this video for that. And so, I can see what was going on. The missionaries were minimalists just to get you baptized. And then once you got in and you started finding out all of this stuff, it was overwhelming and it was too much for you to handle, and you left. Instead of line upon line, precept upon precept. Okay, class, today we're going to talk about how Adolf Hitler has had his temple work in case he wants to repent in the spirit world while waiting for his resurrection. Nope. I mean, technically, they're supposed to have a gospel principles class for you to go to first before you get thrown into the adult Sunday school. But if you're in a branch, there may not be enough Mormons to teach the class. The branch president might be doing all the work himself with missionary help. I seen when they used to do the temple with the penalty. Oh, that's anti-Mormon literature. Stay away from that. That's why you fell away. Yeah, and that was my first time. 1989, May 6th, to be given Nephi as my new name. Penalty oaths, symbolic cutting of the throats. Yep. They were ever to reveal the secrets, super sacred secrets. Yeah. Oh, so you didn't get in debt. Yeah, they don't do the penalty oaths anymore. You just show the knife in your hand. That's the loyalty oaths. Each of you raise your hand and say yes. Yes. Each of you jump off of the bridge. Yes. They stopped it in 1990. Yeah, it was technically 1991 they began the new text that Benson had redesigned. That was right in the middle of my mission. And so, yeah, I came home in May of 91 and didn't even know that they had changed it. I wasn't told, so I found out by going, hey, this isn't what I remember. Where's the part where where's the priest that says that Lucifer is his bestest buddy? And there's some stuff missing. But yeah, you would have been asked to leave if you couldn't hack it at the beginning rather than at the end. Now that you've been told what it is you're going to do, if you still want to leave the church, leave now. No, they do it at the beginning before you know what you're going to get into. That's what frustrated me, is that I'm a kid, I'm being forced to go because of my parents, even though I'm over 18. And so I'm just going through the motions, and I'm sitting there in this big auditorium in the Los Angeles Temple before they had remodeled it to have multiple sessions, I guess. But they tell you right at the very beginning, if you are not willing to go through with this, raise your hand and you'll get kicked out. And then once you go through, they're telling you, you got to keep everything a secret that we tell you. You now have to obey God. Really? Okay, that's an easy one. He's not around. Oh, it's what the prophets tell me that he says? Great. And women used to have to obey their husbands Nelson pulled a little con on them to say it's now Jesus that they have to obey, but Jesus talks to Nelson, and Nelson tells the women to obey the family proclamation, and the family proclamation says to obey your husband. But you're an equal partner. Women got conned on that one. Dear God. And then the law of sacrifice. You have to kill yourself to defend this church from criminal prosecution. And as Jesus Christ has laid down his life, even so shall you sacrifice your own life, if necessary, in sustaining and defending the church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the kingdom of God, one of the two. Dear God. And then the law of the gospel, you can't criticize the leaders of the church, even when the criticism is correct. And then the law of chastity. Why is it called the law of chastity? Seriously, you couldn't call it the law of marriage. And then the law of consecration. Everything belongs to the church and kingdom. You are our slaves. We own you. Oh, dear God. So, yeah, they did not bring you in properly to retain you. They could not do it right. And it's a branch, so it's somewhat understandable, versus a ward that would have multiple people ganging up on you. They would have a structure in place for the first couple of years. They would have you in gospel principles for a little bit, and then they'd have you also get involved in temple prep, and no. They still purposely leave out information, and then you are in it, and then it's like, haha, now you can't leave. That's what pissed me off the whole time with this church, is they try to sucker you in with as little information as possible, and then once you're in, then you start finding out stuff that is uncomfortable, they're not properly educating you on, and then eventually people can't cross that line. And so the whistleblower of Ensign Peak Advisors, the LLC company that's attached to the tithing that exposed the church in 2019, he likewise, faithful Mormon his whole life, went on the mission, knew the guy in charge of Ensign Peak Advisors. That's why the Ensign Peak Advisors guy hired the returned missionary to work there with them, and thus elevated him to see much of the privileged information that nobody else in the world is allowed to see. And they rushed him on what he was shown beyond what he was comfortable with, like you were with endowment. And he realized that the whole operation was criminal. And so he gathered the documents, submitted them to the IRS, and they didn't do anything. And so James Huntsman used him for his lawsuit to get back his tithing in Southern California, and then called it a donation, and lost his lawsuit. And then he was able to submit it to Congress to do something about, and CNN also interviewed him, and so the SEC finally punished the church because of his reporting on the church. And so the church got fined last year for $5 million, which is a standard penalty for SEC violations. But the church does that with every single source of income, and so it's supposed to be 5 million times every single source of income that the church is doing the exact same thing. The church just got caught for tithing, And they worked out a deal with the SEC to lie about the other stuff that they're doing the exact same thing for, even when Nelson came out and says, we do the exact same thing for every source of income. The SEC did not investigate. So nevertheless, the church then had to sue their insurance company that was used to pay off sexually abused Mormons to get the money back. Oh my God. So, yeah, it was Brigham Young who attached the Freemasonry with the underwear and the temple endowment. And that's why Freemasons, the Warsaw Lodge specifically, banned the Nauvoo Lodge that was formed in 1842 under Joseph Smith. And so they're the ones who say that Joseph Smith approved of Brigham having authority beyond his authority as the president of the 12, do temple stuff. And Mormons believe it and don't even think twice about it, even though as priesthood holders in this church, every single lesson not only is no masturbation, but also authority. Do not assume authority for what you don't have. The president of the church is the supreme authority in this church. You do not go against him and anybody over you. Don't go above your elders quorum president. You don't go above the bishop. You don't go above the stake president. You don't go above the high council. You don't go against the 70, etc. up until the president. We're all taught this repeatedly. And yet, Mormons still understand that, well, okay, Joseph Smith assigned Brigham Young to do temple stuff. They believe it without question because, well, they say that Joseph told them to do it, so he gave them authority. Okay. Nobody ever questions. That's so sad because that's how con artists work. They get you to believe them and you don't say, wait a minute, wait. Only Joseph and Hiram were prophets, seers, and revelators. Joseph was a translator. Hiram was the patriarch because he's the oldest of the sons after Senior dies. And so why do currently all 15 of the corporate board have prophet, seer, revelator status? And they don't even claim translator? Mormons don't question that. Very frustrating. And so, yeah, Freemasonry is not bad, but Joseph kept them separate. Brigham Young joined them together. He was banned from Freemasonry for that, but continued on into this valley with it. And so thus we still have it today. And so the square and the compass are on your boobs, on your underwear, and you were told at the veil of all that stuff. If you've seen that video, I think I've done that video recently, put that in there. Or I just finally got around to making an official clip of it, and I haven't put it in a video yet. But anyway. Thank you for answering questions. Watching Tovia Singer, a rabbi, about how Christianity is all messed up and how the New Testament is made up. It's not made up, it's Jewish. That's how Christianity has deceived even the Jews. The Jews do not acknowledge the New Testament as written by Jews because Christians say it's theirs and it's about Jesus. No, it's Jewish. And so even rabbis are fooled. That's why the biblical Hebrew text is incorrect, because it uses the Septuagint that Christians, again, lied, saying that Jews created it in the BCs, with, again, something that should have said, wait a minute, I think you're lying to me. It's called the Septuagint because of 70. Septuagint is 70. So 72 Jews, independent of each other, worked on the translation of only what is contained in the Septuagint. All other Jewish scriptures, no. And when they got together, they compared their different translations, and every single 72 of them had the same exact word, letter for letter, word for word, book for book translation. It's a miracle, it's true. And so the Jews believe that. I think next month it talks about that event, or it was for this month, and I had already mentioned it in a video going over the events from the history of the Jews in that video. But dear God, people just believe liars, and I don't understand why, other than they don't know how to do research themselves to fact check people. And so now we have the internet and AI, and nothing can tell the truth anymore. And so, yeah, it's very sad to watch as the news can't be trusted anymore, our government leaders can't be trusted anymore, businesses can't be trusted, not just religion that can't be trusted. Everybody is lying. Nobody cares to know what the truth is. And then you got the psychologists who were telling our little kids in the grade schools in the 90s about my truth. There's no such thing. Oh dear God, we are all screwed, but that's why they're doing this. And so, yeah, stuff I say will go over your head. You're brand new. You're only in the church for 2 years. I'm not specifically tailoring my channel because YouTube screwed me up. And if I would have known then what I know now, I would have reorganized my YouTube channel. And it's not going to be worth it to start a whole new channel, because then I'll have to deal with trying to get it popular and rise up, and we're supposed to have already been in Zion by now, and we're not. Nelson failed. And so, yeah, I understand. So, yeah, if you have questions, I understand where you're coming from now, and I'll answer them. I'll do comment reply videos that I do, like I did for the other one. And so, yeah, the Egyptian priesthood becoming the Melchizedek priesthood. It's just a Paleo-Hebrew switching of words. But I would have to explain that. That this temple was that, the Jerusalem temple, it was there were lots of temples up and down Canaan. Not just in Jerusalem, but they were tributary to Egypt. And so Luxor, Thebes, or Waset is the main capital one until Akhenaten of the 18th dynasty, who changed his name to Akhenaten and had the Aten as his priesthood and his deity, which was the sun disk rather than the sun at noonday of Amun. And he moved it to Akhenaten as the name of his, and Armana is probably the more popular one you've heard of. that he moved the capital to. And so with King Tutankhamun, he moved it back to Luxor and changed his name to an Amun name. And then the whole kingdom fell, and then the next dynasty took over with the uncle who was a militant leader, and some other stuff that went on for that transition period. And so, yeah, Christians stole the Jews. Everything about them. The whole thing. They stole the Jewish authors. Like you said, the rabbi thinks that the New Testament is Christian authors. No. They stole the Jewish authors so that the Jews don't acknowledge the New Testament as theirs. Stole the religion, turned it Christian, stole the Christ, turned it Jesus. And so scripture interpretation of prophecy and revelation is now literal history. And so in order to make the prophecies about Jesus for a second coming, everything is literal history except for the New Testament stuff talking about a second coming, and any other Old Testament stuff that may refer to a latter day coming. They automatically attach it to Jesus. And that's where the church, if Mormons were to actually study their scriptures, would get themselves into trouble, because Joseph Smith is to start up and prepare for the latter days, just as the Book of Mormon is. And if Mormons were to actually study it and know the various scriptures and put them together, because the church won't do it in the footnotes on purpose, so that Mormons won't know. But we had scripture masteries. And so Deuteronomy 18:15, yeah, we know about that one. As well as Mormons can then know about Joseph Smith, history, verse 40. But they won't tell you it's Jewish, that it's the Jewish Christ in Deuteronomy 18, verse 40. They say Jesus, and it can't be. And so, yeah, there's some things that if Mormons were to actually study their scriptures, would have more questions than just the surface questions of, why are you baptizing Hitler? We have to kill ourselves? What the hell? And knowing the first creed, that it was 325 CE, is your big help to expose this church is lying to you. Because they have Christmas, First Presidency Christmas messages that they give every year. And the one for 2024 was an exact copy of the first creed of Christianity. And so I made a pretty picture and color coordinated it to show those who come to the video that the church isn't even trying to be different anymore. They are purposely trying to destroy Mormonism, as I've tried to warn Mormons, but they don't care. They're not listening. So yeah, there's more that I can't get to, and we're at 119 minutes. But yeah, I understand why they couldn't retain you. But there are many others who couldn't be retained for other things than baptizing Hitler and temple penalties. Most women who leave the church, it's because they believe that Joseph Smith was a child rapist, an adulterer, and a polygamist. That's for that. There are some who believe the money digging and don't believe that Joseph was a translator, because they know that there were over 36 contemporary works contained within the Book of Mormon, not just the Bible. I contributed to several additional contemporary works that none of the Expo Nevermos will acknowledge. LDS. Yeah, and so the struggle is trying to get Mormons to understand the danger they're in. You know, I'm just a guy, just like you, who knows stuff and trying to let Mormons know about it. And I am the enemy because of it. And the scriptures prophesy about that, because that's what happens when you tell people that they're wrong and they're in danger, is they want to kill you. Put you in danger for trying to warn them. The Mormons do it to a T. So, alrighty.